Nobody was born and know it all. We all walk through life ignorant of so many things. And there's always this moments of enlightenment we get when we learn something new or we experience something we haven't experienced before. In his book, 100 Random Light Bulbs, Emma Ugolee throws more light on the 100 lessons you may have ignored or you just haven't given a lot of thought to. And this is an episode you certainly don't want to miss. Welcome back to Books and Things with Joan. I'm Joan, and for today's episode, we're going to be reviewing a book I am in awe of. A lot of people have been asking me when I'm going to review an African writer. Well, today is the day. Ta-da! The 100 Random Light Bulbs. Now, the reason why I didn't review this book up to this moment is because I wanted to make sure that I had made all my video mistakes and editing mistakes, and I'd gotten the hang of how the YouTube thing works before I reviewed this book, because this book is actually very, very close to my heart. The 100 Random Light Bulbs is the book that was written by a Nigerian and not somebody who has had a lot of African reading, and it's something I would like to get a habit of and read more. So this is one of like the first known fiction books I've read from an African author, and it's amazing. Emma Ugolee has so many hats in terms of what he does for a living. He's a TV presenter, a broadcaster, a poet, a writer. Like, there's so many things he does in the media industry, and it's something that partly pulled me since I'm somewhat interested in the media industry. So I was personally drawn to this book, not just based on his accolades and achievements, but also based on his wit and how smart he is. He's so smart. I stumbled on this book a year ago, that was in 2020, on Instagram. So I was just scrolling through my Instagram, I saw a couple of posts from Nigerian artists and other influential people on the book, and I was like, artists tweeting about the book, then this book should definitely be a must read. In my usual curiosity, I went through the tweets and just to try to find out what the book was about and who was the author and stuff like that. And I actually stumbled on Emma Ugolee's page on Instagram. And the thing that struck me most about him, I've bought a lot of books, but I haven't had a chance to talk to the authors. The thing that struck me most about him was I sent a DM in regards to the book and replied really quick. I asked questions about how to go about the book and purchase the book, and he was very fast at responding and very friendly as well. You know, there's a response somebody gives you and they're like, oh, this is it, and there's a response that somebody gives you and you feel like, oh yeah, this person actually is a kind-hearted person. The person is responding out of concern and not out of obligation. There's really a difference there, and that thing actually resonated with me. And even before I asked for his permission to review the book, he was very nice about it, and I was like, this is a nice human being. But enough about his accolades and who he is. Let's talk about the book for now. This is a book for non-fiction haters. Yes, I said it. This is a book for non-fiction haters because it contains stories and personal experiences and the experiences of others and lessons we can learn from these stories or experiences. And it's actually a book that cuts across both genres of writing. So yeah, if you hate or you love non-fiction book, then this is certainly a book that you should buy. So don't give me any excuse for not buying the book. Go get a copy. This book was delivered to me on the 20th of January 2020, and I read the book from the moment it was delivered to me till the next morning. I didn't sleep. That's how addictive that's how addictive the book can be. So what are the lessons I got from reading Emma Ugolee's 100 Random Light Bulbs? Let's go into the lessons. The first lesson I got from reading this book is that you need to be informed and not just opinionated. Most of us believe that what we know is the right thing, especially when it comes to other people's lives and experiences. I'm guilty of that as well. So I'm just soaking in the. Yes, I'm guilty of that as well. We always assume that what is the norm, or what we think is normal is always the case when it happens to somebody. In his book, Ugolee shares a story that touched me personally. And he said there was this day he went to the hospital for dialysis, and on his way back he decided to stop at their company because they had an event. So he decided to stop and go for this supposed event. And when he got there, he couldn't stay long because, of course, he was weak, he was tired, he just came back from the hospital. And if you have been with somebody somebody who is suffering from a terminal disease, cancer, kidney problem, liver problem, you understand what he was really going through. When I read this and I saw that he left the hospital and went to work just to fulfill his obligations, I was like, wow. My aunt suffered from cancer, and I was with her in a lot of the time while she went for her chemotherapy and all this, and I know how much these treatments can drain somebody. So just the fact that he left and he decided to stop by the office before going back home, that shows the level of determination he had as a worker. And that aside, let's look at what happened at the party. So while he was at the party, the music was high, there was alcohol, of course, there were drinks. He was, however, not in the mood to party. Of course, he didn't have the energy to party like every other person. So he just decided to say his hellos and goodbyes and head home. So on his way down the stairs, he couldn't walk like every normal person. So he was struggling, he was just staggering down the stairs, struggling to make his way back home. And a couple of people who stood and saw him struggling down the stairs made fun of him. They were like, ha ha ha, look at this guy, he's drunk, and all the kind of slangs that they make when they assume that somebody has had a lot to drink. And from this story, he gave a quote in the book that describes their interpretation beautifully, and that's in page 28. Accurate information is rarely a prerequisite for human judgment. People don't always judge because they have the right information. Today with social media, people have opinions about every and anything, and their opinions are not necessarily based on facts or based on the truth. It's just based on what they think or they believe. This is where we fail, and this is where we make a lot of prejudgments or misjudgments about people's characters or why they do some sort of things. We should always make sure that before we make a judgment or an assumption about somebody or something, it should be from a place of information and not just an assumption. The second lesson I learned from reading this book is that people are hardly happy for you. And that's what this chapter reads basically. Hardly happy for you. The second lesson is something that made me laugh because we see it every single day. He tells a story about him hanging out with his friends. And while he was hanging out with his friends, one of the people he was hanging out with was telling the others about his house, his building, how expensive cement is, how the structure is going to look like, and all the sort of things that men brag about. And while he was telling this story, everybody was like engaged and like, oh, really? Yeah. A few minutes later, his phone rang. The guy who was telling the story, his phone rang and he stepped out for a bit. Immediately he stepped out, the people he was sitting with started making comments like, oh, we no go rest because the one build house. This type of hypocritical statements we made at the back. But when he was there, nobody said that. Immediately he stepped out, people started making slangs. And this is where the lesson comes from. I'm just going to read a quote from this chapter that reiterates this lesson. You have a part to play in the realization of the daily prayer, deliver us from evil. There is no telling how far the jealous one can go. Be wise. Keep your progress to yourself until it can't be hidden. And that's just basically it. Like, keep your progress to yourself until it cannot be hidden. If this man had kept the fact that he's building a house to himself, the people he was hanging out with won't have to make fun of him and make slangs and even develop evil plans against him. Keep your plans to yourself as much as you can, because you never really know what the heart of man is. Even the Bible says the heart of man is desperately wicked. You can't tell what people are thinking. People will smile to your face and stab you in your back. So the best thing, the safest thing to do is for you to keep your progress to yourself until it can't be hidden to you. What progress should you keep to yourself? Particularly, the things you should keep to yourself are 3 things he notes. The first is your income. Yes, not everybody has to know how much you make or if you even have money. No need to stand on Instagram and announce to people how many millions you made last year. That's not important. The second thing you have to keep is your love life and your relationships. Like, just keep it a secret. A lot of people are unhappy. Why do you think you'll be happy to know that you're happy? Exactly. Not everybody wants to see that you're happy, especially those who are unhappy themselves. So try your best to keep it to yourself. And as well, your next move, whatever you're trying to do, build a house, get a car, just try your very possible best to keep it to yourself, or at least share it with those whom you have tested and try their loyalty and their honesty as human beings. The third lesson I learned from this book is to be happy for your friends. As simple as it is, like, yes, be happy for your friends. We've seen situations where people were best of friends while they had nothing, and as they grow, one person or the other becomes resentful and jealous, and the friendship breaks away. It has happened countless times. Our fingers are not equal. We all don't have the same fingers. There are people who get married before you. Some are going to have kids before you. Some are going to get that dream job before you. Some are going to get more money before you. And some will even die before you. So just be happy for everybody, but don't be happy for somebody's death. That's not what I'm saying. Be happy for people around you. Be happy for their successes. When people make it in life, celebrate with them, and celebrate with them genuinely, believing that when your own turn will come, nobody can stop it. It's just as simple as that. So the best discovery friends can make is to grow separately without growing apart. So as somebody's friend, you can grow separately. Growing separately basically means that you can be advancing in your career while the next person is advancing in their careers, and you still remain friends. It doesn't have to influence your friendship. Your advances individually doesn't have to influence your union as friends, as family, as spouse, or whatever. There are so many lessons to learn from this book, and I want you to be able to tap into this book yourself. So just go to Amazon. I'm going to put the link in the description box. Just go to Amazon and grab your own copy. It's a beautiful read, trust me. Every single chapter is jam-packed with lessons to learn, and I want you to learn the lessons with me. And it's going to be fun to get to talk with some people who have read the book and the lessons we've learned and just brainstorm. To get a copy of this book, and you can share what you've learned in the comment section whenever you do. I'm always here and I'm ready to share and learn with you. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Books and Things with Joan. It's always a pleasure, and I'm elated to have you coming back every single week. The next book I'm going to be reviewing is the book on mental health and building your mind. You certainly don't want to miss this. See you again next week, Monday. Happy new month of March.